Listen up, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shake the very foundations of everything these low-vibration parasites thought they knew about controlling your destiny. At this exact moment, there are forces moving on your behalf that are so powerful, so unstoppable, that your enemies are literally having emergency meetings, trying to figure out how to stop what's already been set in motion. And here's the kicker: they can't. The cosmic joke is on them, because they've been playing checkers while the universe has been setting up a chess match that ends in their complete and utter humiliation. The devil energy that's been working overtime to keep you trapped in their little puppet show is about to get a reality check, so brutal that generations of manipulators will study this moment as the day everything changed. These people who thought they had you figured out, who believed they could keep you running in circles while they collected the benefits of your confusion, are about to discover what happens when a chosen one stops playing by rules that were designed to keep them powerless. Something shifted the moment you started creating options out of thin air, when you began manifesting possibilities that didn't exist in their playbook, when you started believing in the impossible while they were still trying to convince you that their limitations were universal laws. That was the moment their entire system began to crack, because suddenly there was someone in their carefully controlled environment who refused to accept that scarcity was the only reality available. The panic you're witnessing isn't random. These people who never agreed on anything are suddenly forming alliances against you. People who normally can't tolerate each other are now sharing information and coordinating strategies. Those who previously had zero interest in your personal life are suddenly asking probing questions about your plans and movements. Individuals who used to mind their own business are now invested in monitoring your activities with suspicious intensity. When people who can't stand each other start coordinating their efforts around disrupting one person's peace, that person isn't just living rent-free in their heads, they're the landlord of an entire mental real estate empire. But here's what they didn't calculate when they decided to team up against your greatness. Every move they make to flatline your progress only reveals how desperately they need you to stay small for their own sense of security. Every attempt to derail your momentum only proves how magnetic your energy has become. Every coordinated attack only demonstrates that you've evolved into something so powerful that it takes multiple people working together just to try to dim a fraction of your light. The person who suddenly wants to reconnect after months of being too busy, they're fishing for information about your next moves because they can feel the shift happening in your energy field, and they're terrified of being left behind. But here's the twisted part that makes this whole situation even more satisfying. They actually liked it when your life was a complete disaster, when you were crying about your problems, when you couldn't make decisions, when you were stuck in that endless loop of confusion and self-doubt. They were feeding off that energy like spiritual vampires at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Think about it. When was the last time they celebrated one of your wins with genuine enthusiasm? When did they ever encourage you to dream bigger instead of helping you scale your ambitions down to something more manageable? They were addicted to being the voice of reason that kept your dreams in check, the practical advisor who helped you avoid disappointment by avoiding risk altogether. Your uncertainty was their currency, your confusion their control mechanism, and now that you're operating from clarity, they're experiencing withdrawal symptoms that are making them act increasingly desperate and transparent. Those around you who seemed supportive are suddenly revealing their true investment in keeping you stuck. They're projecting their own fears about what becomes possible when someone refuses to accept mediocrity as their ceiling. But dig deeper, and you'll discover something that will make your stomach turn. Some have been actively working to sabotage your progress for years, disguising their interference as love and protection. Every time you shared a dream, they found a way to plant seeds of doubt that grew into full-scale anxiety forests in your mind. Every time you gained momentum, they'd manufacture some crisis that required your immediate attention and emotional energy. They perfected the art of being supportive enough to maintain access while being discouraging enough to keep you trapped in their comfort zone. The authority figures who keep finding new reasons why you're not quite ready for the next level. They're stalling because your readiness threatens everything they've built their expertise around. But the real revelation that's about to blow your mind is how they've been deliberately keeping you dependent on their guidance by solving your problems in ways that created new problems, answering your questions in ways that generated more confusion, and offering help that always seemed to leave you needing more help. This isn't incompetence. This is strategic manipulation designed to create a permanent customer out of someone who should have been flying solo months or years ago. They've been running a sophisticated psychological operation that made you believe you needed their permission to trust your own instincts, their validation to believe in your own potential, and their approval to make decisions about your own life. The chosen one who's been seeking external confirmation for internal knowings is about to realize that the guidance system they've been teaching you to distrust is actually more accurate than all their expert opinions combined. Watch how they scramble when you start operating in pure silence, moving like a ghost through their attempts at surveillance. The person who used to overshare every detail of their journey has become an encrypted vault, and their desperation to crack your code is making them reveal their true intentions with embarrassing clarity. They're so used to having access to your internal monologue that your newfound privacy feels like a personal attack on their ability to stay ahead of your moves. This is where it gets absolutely beautiful. While they're wasting energy trying to figure out what you're planning, you're already 3 steps ahead, implementing strategies they don't even have the imagination to conceive. The opportunities they said would never come are landing in your inbox. The connections they insisted were impossible to make are reaching out to collaborate. The level of success they convinced you to scale down to something realistic is being exceeded before you've even officially announced what you're building. The most devastating blow to their psychological infrastructure is watching you transmute their negativity into pure fuel for your expansion. Every time they send hate your way, your light gets brighter. Every attempt to drain your energy only reveals how limitless your reserves actually are. Every coordinated effort to make you feel isolated only demonstrates how many genuine allies are naturally drawn to your authentic power. They've accidentally become the resistance training that's building your spiritual muscles to levels they never imagined possible. Your boundary game has become so impeccable that their manipulation tactics are bouncing off you like water off a windshield. The guilt trips that used to send you into spiral mode now barely register as background noise. The emotional blackmail that once had you questioning your own reality now gets processed and discarded faster than spam email. The gaslighting attempts that used to make you doubt your own perceptions now feel like confirmation that you're seeing the situation with crystal clarity. But something even more profound is happening that they didn't see coming. You've entered what can only be described as a phase of divine detox, where everything that was draining your life force is being systematically removed from your reality. This isn't coincidence. This is cosmic intervention orchestrating a complete environmental overhaul on your behalf. The universe is literally renovating your reality, removing every element that was designed to keep you operating below your natural frequency. And the most beautiful part, you're not making these changes from a place of anger or reactivity. You're moving with this calm, centered knowing that feels like coming home to yourself after years of living in someone else's definition of who you should be. The people who benefited from your old environment are panicking because they can see the writing on the wall. If you're willing to walk away from situations that no longer serve you, what's stopping you from walking away from them? If you're brave enough to completely restructure your life around what actually feels good, how long before you restructure your social circle around people who actually support your highest good? This is why they're suddenly so invested in your decision-making process, offering unsolicited advice about why you shouldn't rush into changes, why stability is more important than happiness, why you should be grateful for what you have instead of reaching for what you want. They're not concerned about your well-being. They're terrified of losing their access to your energy, your resources, your attention, your willingness to prioritize their comfort over your growth. The person who used to be available for everyone's emergencies has developed this supernatural ability to distinguish between genuine crises and manufactured drama, designed to keep you scattered and reactive. The chosen one, who once dropped everything to rescue people from problems they created for themselves, now responds to panic with patience, to chaos with clarity, to manipulation with boundaries that feel like steel wrapped in silk. But here's where this cosmic shift takes a turn that nobody saw coming, not even you. As you're pulling back from the people who were treating your energy like an all-access pass, you're simultaneously attracting connections that operate on completely different principles. When you stop broadcasting the signal of someone who accepts less than they deserve, you stop attracting people who specialize in delivering exactly that. When you start emanating the energy of someone who knows their worth, you start magnetizing people who recognize and honor that worth without needing to be convinced. But what's really driving them absolutely insane is how gracefully you're moving through their attacks. They keep launching missiles, expecting you to react with the same chaotic energy you used to display, but instead you're responding with this calm, centered power that makes their dramatics look desperate and unhinged by comparison. Your ability to remain unbothered while they're having full meltdowns is creating a stark contrast that's making their true nature visible to everyone watching. The universe is orchestrating such obvious favor on your behalf that even your enemies are starting to whisper among themselves about how untouchable you've become. Projects you mentioned in passing are manifesting at lightning speed. People who seemed completely out of your league are suddenly initiating contact. Resources you thought would take years to access are flowing to you through channels that bypass every gatekeeper who tried to block your path. This is why they're mobilizing with such desperate coordination now. They can sense that you're approaching a level of manifestation power that will make their interference completely irrelevant. Once you fully step into this next phase of your evolution, their opinions about your choices won't even register in your decision-making process. Their approval will become as unnecessary as asking permission from strangers on the street before changing your outfit. The person who used to seek validation from people who were secretly invested in keeping them confused has transformed into someone who generates their own confirmation from such deep internal sources that external voices sound like radio static from another dimension. This evolution is threatening everything they've built their relationship with you around, because suddenly the dynamic where they held the power to make you question yourself has been completely reversed. Now they're the ones questioning everything they thought they knew about what's possible. Every goal you achieve that they said was unrealistic becomes evidence that their advice was actually designed to keep you trapped in their comfort zone. Every boundary you set that they criticized as too harsh becomes a standard they wish they'd had the courage to maintain in their own lives. Every dream you manifest that they helped you abandon becomes a mirror reflecting their own unfulfilled potential back at them with uncomfortable clarity. But the real shock to their system comes when they realize that your transformation isn't just about personal success, it's about becoming living proof that their entire worldview was constructed from limitations they mistook for universal laws. The chosen one who once absorbed their beliefs about what was possible has become evidence that those beliefs were nothing more than inherited programming designed to keep extraordinary people operating at ordinary levels. This is where the spiritual warfare gets interesting, because they're not just fighting your individual success anymore, they're fighting against the possibility that others will witness your transformation and start questioning their own accepted limitations. Your evolution represents a crack in the matrix of mediocrity that keeps entire social systems functioning predictably. When one person breaks free and starts manifesting realities that were supposed to be impossible, it threatens the entire foundation of limiting beliefs that keep everyone else contained. The energy they're putting into trying to pull you back into their version of reality is actually creating a pressure cooker effect that's accelerating your ascension beyond anything that would have happened naturally. Their resistance has become the rocket fuel that's launching you into dimensions of possibility they can't even conceptualize, let alone access. Every attempt to ground you in their limitations only proves that you've already transcended the gravitational pull of their small thinking solar system. This is when you start noticing synchronicities happening at such frequency that denying divine orchestration becomes impossible. The universe is conspiring so obviously on your behalf that even your skeptical mind has to admit something extraordinary is happening. The Obsidian Inner Order is a sanctuary for those who have walked difficult paths and emerged with wisdom others can't see. We understand that some experiences exist outside the boundaries of what most people consider possible or acceptable to discuss. Every week we gather live on Zoom. Real people with real faces sharing real stories without judgment. There's space here for the experiences you've carried in silence, the patterns you've noticed that others dismiss, the intuitive knowledge you've gained through your journey. We don't just listen, we understand. When you're struggling to make sense of your experiences, when you feel gaslit by a world that refuses to acknowledge your reality, you can return to our recorded calls and remember that your perception is valid. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, where your reality is honored and your voice is heard. Link in description. When your psychicom setrab, not to pide papan psychic said dime, darkenide, pide, not to pide, not obsidianide sign sunamed pide, not obsidian tont pide, not obsidian tont pide, not obsidian tont pide. The most beautiful part of this cosmic coordination is how effortlessly it's all unfolding. Your former manipulators are witnessing this shift and losing their minds because they can't figure out how to interrupt a process that's being orchestrated by forces beyond their influence or understanding. They're used to dealing with someone who operated from scarcity, fear, and need for external validation, but the person you've become operates from abundance, faith, and such deep internal knowing that their external opinions register like background noise from a radio station you're no longer tuned into. But here's the cosmic joke that's about to deliver the final blow to their delusions of control. The harder they work to humble you, the more the universe responds by elevating your circumstances. Their attempts to isolate you from opportunities only make you more magnetic to possibilities they can't influence. Their efforts to turn people against you only reveal who your real allies are, while exposing their own toxicity to anyone paying attention. The chosen one who used to absorb their doubts and make them their own operating manual has been replaced by someone who processes their feedback, extracts anything useful, and discards the rest without a moment's hesitation. This version of you doesn't just deflect their negativity, it transforms their attacks into rocket fuel for reaching altitudes they insisted were impossible. Every limitation they helped you accept is being systematically obliterated by a version of yourself they never met and couldn't have prepared for. The career moves they said were unrealistic are already in motion. The relationship standards they convinced you to lower are now your non-negotiables. The financial goals they helped you scale down are being exceeded before the ink is dry on your new plans. But here's where this transformation reaches levels of cosmic comedy that would be unbelievable if it weren't happening right in front of everyone's eyes. The very people who spent years convincing you that you weren't ready for bigger opportunities are now desperately trying to attach themselves to your success story. Those who criticized every dream you ever shared are suddenly telling people about how talented you are and taking subtle credit for your amazing accomplishments. People who always found reasons why your ideas wouldn't work are now asking if you need any help with your projects. Authority figures who kept you stuck in preparation mode are now claiming partial credit for your breakthrough. They've shifted from trying to stop your ascension to attempting to ride the wave of your momentum, and their desperation to remain relevant in your success narrative is revealing the true nature of their previous interference. They weren't trying to protect you from disappointment, they were trying to protect themselves from the discomfort of relating to someone who refused to accept their limitations as universal truths. The chosen one who once thought they needed these people's approval to validate their dreams is now watching these same people beg for association with achievements they actively tried to prevent. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it at the celebration dinner they're hoping to get invited to. This reversal of power dynamics is creating a ripple effect that's transforming not just your reality, but the entire social ecosystem around you. Other people who have been accepting similar limitations from similar sources are witnessing your transformation and asking themselves why they're still living in cages with doors that were never actually locked. Your liberation is becoming a catalyst for awakenings they never saw coming. The person who always seemed to have bad luck is suddenly manifesting miracles. The individual who never thought they were smart enough is discovering they're actually brilliant. The someone who believed they weren't attractive enough is realizing they've been radiant all along. Your breakthrough is giving others permission to question the limiting beliefs they've been carrying, like identification cards, not realizing they could simply choose to put them down and walk away. This is why your former controllers are mobilizing with such desperate coordination now. They're not just losing control over you. They're watching their entire system of influence crumble as more people wake up to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they don't have to accept other people's assessments of their potential as the final word on what's achievable in their lives. The collective awakening that's happening in your orbit is creating what can only be described as a freedom epidemic, where people who have been sleepwalking through limited lives are suddenly rubbing their eyes and asking what else might be possible if they stopped asking permission from people who profit from their playing small. Your evolution has become a mirror that's reflecting everyone's unused potential back at them with such clarity that pretending they don't see it is no longer a viable option. Their greatest nightmare is materializing in real time as they watch you operate from such integrated wholeness that their fragmented approaches to life look primitive by comparison. The person who used to need their interpretation of events now reads situations with such clarity that their analysis feels like someone explaining colors to an artist. The chosen one who once required their permission to dream big is now manifesting realities that make their biggest ambitions look like practice rounds. This is the moment when justice stops being an abstract concept and becomes a lived experience. Not because you're seeking revenge, but because you've evolved beyond the frequency where their interference can reach you. The game is over, not because you destroyed them, but because you realized you were never actually playing their game in the first place. You were always meant for something infinitely more magnificent than their small version of success could contain. The final revelation hits them like a cosmic slap when they realize that your success was never dependent on their approval in the first place. Every achievement they took credit for enabling was actually the result of your own power finding a way to express itself despite their limitations. You were always the source of your own magic. They were just skilled at convincing you to channel it through their permission systems. Now, as you stand in the full radiance of your reclaimed authority, their attempts to dim your light seem almost comically ineffective. The opposition that once felt overwhelming now serves as confirmation that you're heading in exactly the right direction. Their resistance has become the very force that propels you beyond anything you previously thought possible. But the most profound shift isn't just in how you handle their attacks, it's in how you've learned to transmute the energy of conflict into creative fuel for your next level of manifestation. Every time they send negativity your way, you're not just deflecting it, you're transforming it into raw material for building something they could never imagine. Their hate becomes your rocket fuel, their doubt becomes your determination, their fear of your potential becomes your proof that you're already operating at frequencies that threaten their entire worldview. This alchemical ability to turn poison into medicine, obstacles into opportunities, and opposition into acceleration is perhaps the most powerful skill the chosen one develops on this journey. The person who once absorbed toxicity and made it their internal reality has become someone who processes negativity through such sophisticated spiritual filters that it emerges on the other side as pure creative energy. The universe is responding to this transformation by orchestrating circumstances that would seem impossible if you weren't living them yourself. The business opportunity that lands in your lap exactly when you need it. The romantic connection that appears just as you've fully learned to love yourself. The creative project that flows through you with such ease that you barely feel like you're working. The financial abundance that streams in through multiple channels you didn't even know existed. This isn't luck. This is what happens when someone finally aligns so completely with their authentic purpose that reality begins rearranging itself to support their highest expression. The chosen one, who once struggled against the current of their destiny, is now moving with such fluid grace that obstacles seem to dissolve before they even fully materialize. Your former oppressors are witnessing this quantum shift and experiencing a level of cognitive dissonance that's leaving them speechless. The person they thought they had figured out has evolved into someone who operates according to principles they don't understand, using abilities they didn't know were possible. They're not just watching you succeed, they're watching you rewrite the rules of what success can look like when it's not filtered through other people's limitations. The sweetest part of this cosmic justice is watching how their efforts to make you question your worth only confirm how valuable you are. Every strategy to make you doubt your path only validates that you're walking in divine alignment. Every coordinated move to convince you that you're not ready only proves that you're already operating at levels that threaten their entire worldview. And here's the final twist that completes the circle of this transformation tale. The person who once needed their permission to shine has become someone who gives others permission to discover their own light. The chosen one, who was trapped in their limitation matrix, has become a gateway for others to escape similar prisons. Your freedom has become a master key that's unlocking possibilities for people who didn't even realize they were locked up. Justice isn't just jumping over the couch for your ops. It's doing backflips, cartwheels and victory dances while your enemies watch in horror as everything they tried to stop unfolds with such obvious divine backing that even they can't deny what they're witnessing. The chosen one, who once feared their judgment, now generates such authentic power that others seek your approval instead. The game they thought they were winning was actually just the warm-up round for the championship match you were born to dominate. Their humiliation is complete, not because you defeated them, but because you transcended the entire battlefield they thought you were trapped on forever. While they were plotting your downfall, you were ascending to altitudes where their opinions become as irrelevant as weather reports from planets you'll never visit. The favor on your life has become so uncrackable that even your enemies are starting to secretly admire the very qualities they tried so hard to destroy.